Hey everyone, this is Chris Miller and you're listening to the EduMind podcast. If you're an architect, project manager, or a nurse, or maybe you're just curious about these career paths, then our podcast is one that you're not going to want to miss. Each week, we'll be talking to subject matter experts, course instructors, and other special guests to bring you the latest and greatest in architecture, project management, and nursing, and a whole lot more. Now, let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the EduMind's weekly podcast. I'm Chris Miller, and today I got a special guest with me, Makayla Bowens, a registered nurse. So please, let's welcome her aboard. How are you this afternoon, Makayla?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Such a chipper face to see, so it's nice. I'm sure you probably just got done maybe working a long shift and you're still this chipper. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, hey, before we get started, if you want to kind of just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and then we'll get into things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Ohio. I grew up, born and raised in Melbourne, Ohio. I'm currently a travel nurse. So I'm in Hilton Head, South Carolina currently. I've been on contract here for 6 months now and I'm renewing it again. So we're going on 9 months here. So
sounds pretty neat. Wow, I mean, that's a long time being in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Man.
It's the weather. It's pretty here.
Oh, I can imagine. So being a travel nurse is a little bit different in the sense that you're not, constantly in the same location all the time. Is it typical, though, for you to be in one location this long?
So not typically. A lot of travel nurses will take 3-month contracts and then go somewhere new. A 3-month contract, go somewhere new. I just really happen to like where I'm at right now, so I've just extended it every time. And I'm actually right in the middle of transferring to the ICU. So, so I just happened to just keep renewing it.
That's exciting. So, the COVID pandemic probably made travel nursing maybe a lot more, I don't want to say popular, but maybe a lot more common than the norm. Because I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I have a few nurse friends that actually, during the onstart of COVID, they actually went to either New York or Texas and things like that. So it's kind of cool to see that, nurses are willing to kind of pack up and go where needed. So that's very admirable there. So, well, let's before we get into the meat and potatoes, why don't we kind of walk us through what a typical day is for a travel nurse?
All right. So kind of your typical day in the life of a nurse. I just luckily actually with Hilton Head, South Carolina, it's really nice because I can park right by the hospital. As to where at OSU, I had to take the shuttle. It was terrible. But no, you clock in, get a report. My right now staffing ratio, one nurse. They try to keep it 5 patients. I average anywhere between 1 to 9. So kind of a lot. That's kind of dumps on travel nurses a little bit, but that's okay. Get a report on the patients. Go check in, do an assessment, give them their meds. Just kind of see how they're doing. Where I work, it's a little different. So right now I'm actually in psychiatry. So it's a little different, breaking up fights here and there.
Oh, wow.
Giving some horse medications. Yeah.
You probably never thought you'd have to be a bouncer, right?
Exactly.
Wow, that's interesting. So actually, my brother's wife, she's a nurse and she works in a psychiatric place out in Southern California. So sometimes I remember hearing her stories. I'm like, holy cow, that's a rough way to spend a shift. So, the stories, especially at family get-togethers, they were always probably the best stories of everybody. But it's just amazing what you guys go through. So, when I think of a nurse, there's a lot of characteristics that can kind of come to mind. One is, the ability to multitask. Great under pressure. So if I were to ask you what are some of the characteristics or qualities that nurses embody, what would your response be?
I probably would say, obviously, hopefully dependable. I would hope my nurse to be able to depend on them. I would say, trustworthy, honest. Adapting, with psychiatry, I'm breaking up fights, so it's easy. I have medication in one hand, someone's going off on this side, someone's yelling. It's just like, it's a constant, like, you gotta be able to multitask or you just won't make it.
So so you're you're doing the psychiatry now, and you said you're going into ICU. How big of a change do you think that's going to be for you, and how quickly do you think you're going to be able to adapt to the difference in environment?
So I'm pretty nervous, but so I kind of float like here and there now. So I mean, I haven't floated to the ICU at all, but I think this is gonna sound really bad, but the adrenaline you have, like when a patient is like fighting and like you have to call security and you're like giving meds, it's kind of the same adrenaline you have when a patient is coding. So it kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with like the adrenaline rush,
Sure.
and getting things under control. So I don't know. I'm a little nervous. I think it might be a little hard to adapt in the beginning, but I think I'll get the hang of it pretty quickly. But
I agree. I think you're right. I do see some similarities between the two, right? I mean, definitely quick reaction is going to be needed, a level head. It might be a little bit more mundane than what you're used to at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool that, another great thing about nursing is that, every day doesn't have to be the same day, right? There are so many different avenues of nursing and, you can always, hey, you're tired of this one, you go down another one. So it's kind of cool that you're staying in the same field, but yet you're able to go down different paths. So that's pretty cool. When I talk to nurses, I always hear the word clinical. So, like, what's the purpose of clinicals?
So clinical, so you go through clinical during nursing school, 4 years of great practice that you get all the experience. So it's kind of like you're just basically there. You're the nurse, you're the student nurse. It's just a class that you take that is attached to every class that you take, every nursing class. You have to go just kind of hang out, see how nursing is, see how it is in that field. It's pediatrics, ICU. You go through a rotation of every single department, kind of to see what you like, what you don't like. But yeah, you have a certain number of hours that you have to maintain. You pass meds. You do all the assessments. You basically do everything. You're the nurse. You're just not getting paid.
So it's like an internship.
Exactly. It's terrible.
Sure. Oh, I'm sure they probably load you up as well and work. They're like, hey, we got these students doing clinicals. Let's just run them into the ground. But it builds character. It toughens you up a little bit. So if you take what you currently do aside, let's consider maybe psychiatry to be a little outside of maybe the norm when it comes to this question. Let's see if we can't get a different answer maybe. So what physical demands do nurses have to meet?
So basically, if you can go through 12 hours without eating, without going to the bathroom, without anything, you'll be fine. Like you don't have time to do anything. You just have to take care of these patients. So I would say physically, you don't have time to drink water. You don't have time to do anything. I would definitely think because of COVID, it kind of, burnout is definitely real. It's amongst the nurses everywhere. I would for sure say that they're probably pushing us a little bit past our limits with that kind of stuff, just because there are more patients in need. And it can be physically draining. You're tired. It's like a constant fog of just working night shift and just that's just you the whole time. It's just
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of physical demand and also mentally draining, right? I mean, I'm sure after working 12, 14, 15 hours, you're just beat. I mean, your body's done, you're mentally done. So let me ask you this. What do you do to kind of keep yourself from being burned out?
Drink some wine.
An honest answer, but a truthful answer, or a good answer. So let me ask you this. I know you said you worked at OSU Hospital, huge hospital. Now you're in South Carolina. What are some of the big differences between where you were and where you're at now?
So Ohio State, you go from a huge hospital, teaching hospital, which is great because you have residents and students all the time. So I would say Hilton Head is 3-floor hospital. It is so small, tiny. So you go from doctors are there constantly, like 24/7 to, like, here you have to call the doctors, you have to wake them up in the middle of the night, like there's not someone there at all times. So it's definitely like a lot smaller, can be a good thing too in a way, because you kind of get to know everybody when you float to different floors. You kind of get to know like the gist of it, how it works. That's kind of, I think, why it's so easy for me to transfer to the ICU right now, because I know the manager and like I know everyone else that's there. And I just really need out of psych right now. Like,
I'm getting roughed up.
Professional firebreaker upper. That's all I can.
I mean, but it's got to make the day go by quick.
It does. It for sure does.
So, on your, I don't know, I guess you said you switched from floor, so I guess that isn't a good question. But here's a question for you: is how many other travel nurses are amongst, I guess, your group or your staff right now?
Yeah, so a lot. Hilton Head, I think, is like so small that they really wouldn't function without travel nurses, just because they don't really have the staff. So we have, on my floor, we have probably 5 of us, 5 travel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. From all areas, so it's like super cool, because you kind of get to know like, places, and like you kind of get to talk like, oh, how is this place? Like, is the hospital nice? Is the staff nice? Let me know, because I don't want to go somewhere that. And a lot of people, like, sometimes like people are like, oh, you're a travel nurse, like, you're making so much more than me, and it's like sometimes people can just be super rude,
Right.
and they're like, and then you have like the occasional like really nice ones. They're like, thank you so much for like being here, like we really appreciate it. But
no, I agree. And, nursing as a field is difficult enough. And then, being a travel nurse, it is difficult, because if you think about it, for nurses that are stationed at a particular hospital in their hometown where they, live and everything, it's a lot easier for them because their home is there, family and friends are there. But, for you travel nurses, you're kind of out there on your own. So, it's a little bit more difficult, because you're adapting to new people, new environment, and then you don't have maybe the support that you would have back home. So, I mean, I give travel nurses a lot of credit. I think what you do is fantastic. You guys go into areas that nobody, and you go to the front line. So that's pretty cool. So what made you like want to do travel nurse? I mean, OSU is a great hospital, home of the Buckeyes. What made you give that up? And I mean, outside of weather, I mean, Ohio, I can understand being in the winter. It's horrible here. It's 29 degrees here today. But yeah, I mean, what made you decide to say, hey, you know what? I love OSU hospital, but I think I'm gonna, take my act on the road.
Yeah. So I would say OSU. I love it. Great hospital. I love that hospital. It's amazing. I would say though, just being super burnout, which is super unfortunate, but our staffing, even where I'm at now, like staffing is terrible everywhere. Like there's not enough nurses, like there's not enough doctors, like there's not enough anybody. And I would say though, I was getting thrown in charge a lot at OSU, and I've been a nurse for 2 years now. So
oh wow,
I was like, yeah, so I'm pretty young, anyways,
right,
in the nursing field. And I started like right during COVID, or like right before.
Oh yeah, right before.
So, yeah. So really, like a little bit of pre-COVID, like nursing, like that's just not really a thing anymore. It's just like all COVID nursing, and like
right.
But no, yeah, just definitely like being thrown in charge and like not really knowing kind of what I was doing. But like my manager, she was great and everything, but she's like, you can do this, and I'm like, okay, but can I? Like, and so I was just like burnout, taking 8 patients every day.
Oh man,
it's just like. And that's even such like a bigger floor than what I'm on now. And it's just like, it was just getting to be like a lot. So I was like, why not give this whole travel nursing like a shot?
Yeah.
And my little brother actually moved with me here too. So.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. So, travel nurse, it's kind of like living the life of a rock star in the sense that you're always on the road, right? So let me ask you, where's your next stop? Where are you taking your act to next?
So I am actually looking at a position in California next, in LA. Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah. I haven't fully decided yet, but I think that's where I want to go next.
Well, I'm from LA. And so, I've been out in Ohio maybe now since 2004, but not born in LA, but I've been there probably 20 some years of my life. So I'll give you some heads up about LA. Great place to be, but watch out for the traffic.
Right.
It's crazy out there, but a lot of great hospitals out there.
Yeah.
You know, not just at university. You got UCLA out there. You got Cedar Sinai Nights. A lot of great places. So, what would make? I mean, when do you think you'll decide? Hey, LA is where I'm going.
I don't know. I'm about to be in the ICU, so I still have a 3-month contract left.
Sure.
So hopefully, fingers crossed, like before then.
I will give you one last bit of advice. Hopefully, this won't change your mind. I was in LA about 3 weeks ago, and I saw that gasoline was $5.68 a gallon. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I couldn't. I've never seen that in my life. But no, great place to be. Like I said, a lot of great hospitals. So you said you're a relatively new nurse,
Yeah.
which is great because now that takes me right into our next topic, which is the NCLEX.
Oh.
So that's probably still fresh on your brain. This is a stepping stone for those that are looking to become an RN. So yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your experience with the NCLEX?
Yeah. So I used it's Mark Klimek. He is he I think retired, maybe passed it down to his son or something, but it's like this course that you can do like right before you're about to take the NCLEX. He gives you some awesome like tips, tricks that really, really work. They really stick in your brain. He does it in a funny way, like to get you to remember things. So I did that before I did the NCLEX. I did it I think 2 weeks probably before I did the NCLEX, so that it was kind of fresh in my brain. And then other than that, like just doing questions like ATI, what is the other one called? There's another one, but it's just like any website that you can just like do questions, like NCLEX style questions, and just like repeat them over and over again. Like if you don't know it, learn the rationale, like learn why it's saying that, because some of those questions are just like not good questions, and like realistically in life you're not going to do that, but it's still the right answer, so you just have to go with it.
100% agree with you. I'll give you an example. So, we also teach the PM for project managers, and I'll be teaching the class. I'll tell everyone, hey, look, I know you've probably been a project manager for 15 years, but if you see this question or a question like this, don't answer it how you would. Just do how you read it in the book.
Exactly.
So, no, I see what you mean. But I also agree practice questions are a great source for studying. The more you do, the better you get at it. And then also helps you build confidence, right? That, hey, I've been through 7,000 questions and I'm scoring pretty high, so I must be ready. So let me ask you this. When you were doing the practice questions, how were you? I mean, were you nailing them? Were you feeling, oh man, I'm scoring 80, 90s? And then when you went into the exam hall, did you find that maybe you were overconfident, or were you just right?
So I was going okay on the practice questions, like 70, 80%. I was feeling okay, but I was like, I talked to like previous nurses, and they're like, the NCLEX is so easy. It's like, everyone makes it out to be so hard. Like it's not bad. Like just, go with your gut answer. And then I sat for the NCLEX and I went through it, and I was like, what is this? This is not easy. So my NCLEX was right before COVID, so they had changed the NCLEX a little bit. So it shut off in 60 questions instead of 75. So mine shut off in 60 questions, and I was like, okay. I called my mom, bawling. I was like, I just failed that. Like, there's no way I passed. Like, I don't feel confident at all. And there's like this trick you can do with NCLEX. So if you once you're done with it, later that night you can go try and re-register for it. You have to put your payment information in. So if it tells you like, oh no, sorry, you just did this, you passed. If it authorizes your payment, you did not pass. And I was like, I knew of the trick, and I told my mom, I was like, I can't click submit. Like I know I failed. Like I was literally, I called her on the way home bawling, and I was like, Mom, I failed. She's like, no, you didn't. I was like, no, I did. And so then later that night, I was like, I just can't click submit. And so she did it, and it said like, oh, sorry, you just took this test. I was like, oh my gosh. And my mom was like, you passed. And I was like, well, we don't know that.
It's funny you bring that up. So my wife just took the NCLEX, I think at the end of July.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how many questions it went or whatever, but she was nervous. And then she said you have to wait so many days before you can, get a notification that you can pay for the express or whatever. And she said she heard this trick. She
Yeah.
said that some of her friends said, "Hey, you try to re-register for the exam. If it lets you re-register, then you probably didn't pass. But if it doesn't, then you passed." I said, "Well, you can't buy into that." I said, "That doesn't work." I said, "There's no way that works." So three of her and two of her friends did it. One of them, the first one, it allowed her to re-register. So I was like, so they were like, "Well, it doesn't mean you didn't pass, right?"
Right.
But for her and then her other friend, they were not able to register.
Uh-huh.
And so, let's say that was a Friday. Come Sunday, they got the email that says, "Hey, you can go ahead and, you know, pay to have the express results." It was 100% accurate. The one that could not register, or the one that could register for the exam failed, and the
Yeah.
other two that could not pass. So I was like,
Yeah.
"There's no way that works." So it's kind of funny that you bring up the same thing. But like you, they both were like not overly excited yet because you don't have that screen that says, "Hey, you passed." You don't want to be all excited, and then all of a sudden you get your results, and you're like, "Oh, I
Exactly.
didn't pass." So that's funny. That's an interesting little back door, though.
It works. It works. I think they came out with like an article about it, and it's been like 90%, 90 something percent accurate.
Wow. Well, right
So,
now I'm 4 for 4 with you. You're the fourth person, and it's worked. So
exactly.
that's pretty cool. Um, Let me ask you a question. So, what made you, or when did you decide that nursing is where you wanted to go?
Yeah. So when I was younger, my appendix ruptured, and I was in the hospital for like 2 weeks, I think. And I was like, the nurses were great, like wonderful. They caught it kind of late, so. But yeah, so I had to be in the hospital a little bit longer. But the nurses were literally wonderful, and I was like, wow, like it would be so cool to be able to help people like this. And then like fast forward a little bit, my grandpa actually passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's okay. And the nurses, again, were like wonderful. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to do this. Like I want to be that person to like help these people, the people that like helped me. Like I want to be that person for other people. I was like, I want to be able to help people, like even the ones that are going through a hard time. Like I want to be there for them. I want to help them. And so, yeah, that's kind of when I decided. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this whole nursing thing. Yeah, and here we are.
That's a really cool story. You were motivated by others that you saw doing the same things that you want to do. That's pretty neat. And, that's one of the great things about nursing too. Is like, you go see a doctor, and they're usually, I mean, I love doctors. That without them we'd be in a lot of trouble. But sometimes they're a little more standoffish. And then I never met a nurse that didn't make me feel at home. And that's kind of weird to say that here you are sitting in the hospital with a needle stuck in you, and you're feeling pretty comfortable. But it's because of the way the nurses made you feel.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, so hats off to them. What
absolutely.
do you enjoy most about being a nurse?
Um, I really like helping people. So like, I think it's super cool to see somebody come in like to the hospital, like completely like, not feeling good, like broken, sick, just like, and you can tell, like you can tell physically, like they're not doing great. You can tell like emotionally they're like not there. They're just, and then, yeah, and then I just like to see that progression of them like go from like such that broken bad place to like good and like smile on their face, like feeling better, like being so sincere, like thank you for helping me. I think like that is the best part when you can see somebody go from like that step to like better. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen, with all patients, but
Right.
for the majority, I think just like the fact that like you're that bridge way to like helping them get to a better place, I think is my favorite part.
I like it. I like it a lot. Like it's a very demanding profession, but also very rewarding as well. So that's pretty cool. So, we kind of talked about what your typical work day is, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyways. So we talked about what you like most about being a nurse. What are some of the more demanding things about being a nurse?
Um, definitely like the burnout, working like, just not having the staff. I think like that, the staffing issue is like, again, like nationwide, like it's just, there aren't enough nurses. And then nurses that are there, they're so burnt out and like
Right.
they are stressed out, working all this time. And then like, I feel like some of them don't feel like they're being like thanked for like how much they are doing. So then it makes them want to leave their jobs. And so definitely just like the burnout and yeah.
No, I feel you. I feel you. So, here I am sitting at a desk all day, and I'm telling you, hey, I understand what you mean.
Right. No, it happens everywhere.
Right. So here's another question, maybe a little sidetrack question, but we'll throw it out there anyway. So, much like everything else, medicine it evolves, right? It's always changing, not just in medicine, but also maybe in processes or techniques. So how do you keep up with it all?
So we have like these in-services that we have to go to. We get at Hilton Head and like OSU and everywhere else, you get constant emails about like, hey, this is new and new medicine. This is what it does, side effects. You're definitely always doing like learn share modules to like keep up to date with the new stuff. And then I think like the coolest part though about that is like when you are learning that and you're going through like the modules, like clicking through it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is like so boring. But then when you actually like get to experience it in real life, it's like, wow, okay, maybe that was helpful.
Well, I'm glad you're going through those. So that makes me a little more comfortable if I ever end up in Hilton Head and need a little help from a nurse. I'll know at least that you've gone through the training. So, but hey, I've had a lot of fun with you here today, and I enjoyed having you on the podcast. I'd love to have you back. Maybe follow you on your travels to see where you end up next. I know you still got a ways to go in South Carolina, but I'd love to bring you back on here.
Yes.
I look at it this way. You're in South Carolina. Other than work, what else do you really have to do? So come on a podcast.
Right, exactly.
So I know we kind of briefly talked before the podcast. Holidays are coming up. You got to work both days, but you got to somehow be managing some kind of holiday festivities. What do you got planned when you're not working?
Yeah. So kind of they have like these cool things at the beach all the time. I told you before, it's like 64 degrees here, which is like pretty good. Yesterday was like 75. And so the beach is always open. It's never going away. Always nice there. So they actually do a lot at the beach. So they have like a Christmas parade and stuff that they're doing. So my brother's actually in Ohio right now, but he'll be back soon. So we're going to hopefully do that. And we have 2 dogs with us too. So take them.
Got your hands full.
Yeah.
I didn't ever think I'd be talking to somebody on December the 8th about going to the beach on Christmas.
Right.
This morning I woke up to snow and 29 degrees. So I'm sure your brother's like, holy cow, I can't wait to get back to South Carolina. But yeah, so that's great. So hopefully you'll be able to, take some time, enjoy the beach, enjoy your brother and dogs, and have a good holiday season. But again, I definitely would love to have you back on here. Any last words of wisdoms before we let you go for the day?
I would definitely say like to all of the people in nursing school or like, nurses out there, like just get through it. It sucks, but once you get there, like it's great. The burnout definitely is real, but that's why we're all kind of in this together. So it definitely gets better towards the end. So yeah, I would just say keep pushing through.
Keep on trucking. I like that. So again, thank you, Makayla, for joining us. For everyone else, happy holidays, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks for having me.